Hello, my name is Nathan Taylor, otherwise known as Sockmatician, and this is a video to accompany the Sockmatician's Double Knitted Brioche ebook. This particular video is on how to transition vertically from double knitted brioche to double knitting. That's vertical transition from double knitted brioche to double knitting. Now it's important, if you want to keep your stitch gauge the same, to transition in a certain way. You could of course just start working double knitted stitches into these double knitted brioche stitches, but that would change the gauge enormously. Double knitting is much narrower and double knitted brioche is much wider. So if you want to keep the stitch gauge the same, it is approximately 2 to 1. So we need to double up our number of stitches. So this means we're going to be looking at the stitches and their yarn overs as separate entities for part of this. We're going to work one new stitch into the stitch and one into the yarn over, one into the yarn over and one into the stitch. So we can turn the 4 strands of our single pair of double knitted brioche stitch into 2 brand new pairs of double knitting. Now that sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but here are the steps. I've worked to the point where I am about to transition, and because I'm finishing a section of double knitted brioche, I always finish the section of double knitted brioche by taking my pearl coloured yarn to the back of the work. That means both of my yarns are now at the back of the work, which is where they would be for double knitting, so that's all good. And now I want to show you the steps of how to do the actual transition itself. So we're going to take one stitch with its yarn over and we're going to slip it knitwise, so putting the needle in as if to knit like that, not purlwise like that, but knitwise like that, and slip both together, stitch and yarn over, from the left needle to the right. Then we're going to slip just the yarn over without the stitch, also knitwise, so that's the left needle going in from front to back and from right to left, slipping back across there, leaving the stitch on the needle, on the right needle there. So then we're going to take the left needle again and we're going to slip that stitch this time with no yarn over from the right needle to the left. What that's done is it's separated the 2 strands. We've now got the stitch sitting very separately from its yarn over. Now we can work a pair of double knitted stitches into those 2 strands. So first of all, we knit with our knit coloured yarn into the knit coloured stitch. We bring both yarns to the front together because this is double knitting, and then we purl into that pearl coloured yarn over strand, making a new stitch out of it, and we take both yarns to the back, going between the 2 needles, as we always do with double knitting. That's the first half of it done. You can see we've got 2 stitches there. They are now not a stitch and a yarn over, they are now 2 separate stitches. And we also want to make these 2 strands, the blue stitch and its brown yarn over, into another pair of double knitted stitches. So it starts off the same. We're going to slip the stitch and its yarn over knitwise again from the left needle to the right. This time we're going to slip the stitch. We started with the yarn over on the last pair, but this time we're going to slip the stitch knitwise from the right needle to the left, and then the yarn over knitwise again from the right needle to the left. And then we can work the knit coloured stitch into the knit coloured yarn over. There we go. A normal knit stitch there. Bring both yarns to the front for double knitting purposes, and then purl that pearl coloured stitch with the pearl coloured yarn and take both yarns to the back of the work, ready to continue with double knitting. So those are our 4 new double knitting stitches. There's no yarn overs there. It's stitch, 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 knit, purl on the needle. All 4 stitches worked into just 1 pair of double knitted brioche stitches. I'll show you all of that again. So starting with both yarns at the back of the work, we slip 1 stitch with its yarn over knitwise from the left needle to the right, and then we're going to slip the yarn over on its own knitwise from the right needle to the left, then the stitch on its own knitwise from the right needle to the left. It's important that all of these slips are done knitwise. Then we're going to knit into that stitch, bring both yarns to the front and purl into the yarn over. And that's given us 1 of our 2 pairs. Now we need to do the magic with the pearl pair of the double knitted brioche pair, pearl stitch I should say, of the double knitted brioche pair, and we're going to slip that stitch with its yarn over knitwise, slip the stitch on its own this time knitwise back to the left needle, then slip the yarn over on its own knitwise back to the left needle, and then work a double knitted pair into those 2 strands of yarn. And take both yarns to the back, as always, when finishing a double knitted pair of stitches. Let me show you that one more time. Slip the stitch with its yarn over knitwise from the left needle to the right. Slip the yarn over on its own knitwise from the right needle to the left, and the stitch on its own from the right needle to the left. Work a pair of double knitted stitches into those 2 strands and take both yarns to the back to finish. Then we're going to slip the next stitch with its yarn over knitwise from the left needle to the right. Slip the stitch this time knitwise from the right needle to the left, followed by the yarn over knitwise from the right needle to the left, and work our pair of double knitted stitches into that pair of strands of yarn, giving us there, we've got 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs and 4 pairs out of 2 pairs of double knitted brioche stitches. And that is your vertical transition from double knitted brioche to double knitting. Zip!